Thank you for joining us for this interview on Africa 24. Today we'll be receiving on set His Excellency Wamkele Mene, Secretary General of the African Continental Free Trade Area Secretariat, on the sidelines of the first ever Afro-Caribbean Trade and Investment Forum here in Bridgetown, Barbados. Thank you for joining us, Your Excellency.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you. So can you give us your vision about strengthening ties between Africa and the Caribbean to boost trade and investment across both regions?
Well, I think we have to reflect deeply about this event as to why it has taken us so long to get to a point where there is an exploration of trade and investment links between our two regions, Africa and the Caribbean. Obviously, the historical ties are very, very important, and that is what has bound us together thus far. We had not taken this step to convene in a trade and environment dialogue. It is the first time, as you mentioned. And so whilst we should be concerned that it took us this long, I think going forward, we should double our efforts to make sure that the trade flows, the investment flows between Africa and the Caribbean, that they are quite significant. The fact that what actually brought us together was the European Union through the ACP structure is unfortunate. We should have had a direct dialogue on trade and investment for a very long time. Nonetheless, I believe that there will be concrete outcomes from this forum. If you look at the numbers, the export and import flows between the two regions are very, very low. Only $150 million worth of trade happens, which is a very, very low amount. So there's a lot of potential to expand trade links, to expand investment links, and the starting point, I believe, is this forum today.
So early August, I think on the 10th of August 2022, during a press conference in Accra where you reside, you noted an increase, progress in the implementation of the AFCFTA. You noted especially the improvement, the engagement of heads of state. Can you tell us more about this progress and the assessment of the AFCFTA so far?
We've made progress in rules of origin, which is very important because without rules of origin you cannot trade. We now have convergence on 88% of rules of origin, which is quite significant. We trade in Africa over 5,000 products, and these products that we have been trading them based on different rules, which would be by region or by country. We will now have, on these 88%, we will have the same rule, absolutely the same rule for trade, and that is very, very important to unlock the potential for trade in Africa, to unlock investment, because an investor, if the rule of origin, if the local content rule for automotives is different in West Africa, to Central Africa, to East Africa, investors will not invest in that context. But if we have the same rule for the whole continent, it then encourages investors to invest more and to create jobs ultimately. So we've had very good success in rules of origin. We now have 43 countries that have ratified the agreement establishing the AFCFTA. The president of Guinea-Bissau announced that soon Guinea-Bissau will
be joining.
Yes, absolutely. They have already taken the domestic steps for ratification. So by the end of the year, we will have 44 or maybe even 45 countries who are state parties to the agreement establishing the AFCFTA. We have operationalized the dispute settlement body, which is important for resolution of trade, investment, competition disputes. That is fully operational. So we have had a number of successes. Where, of course, we would like to see more happening is we want to see more countries who are state parties to the AFCFTA, more countries introducing the customs systems at national level to enable trade under AFCFTA rules to happen.
So on November 25, Niger will be hosting an extraordinary summit of the African Continental Free Trade Area. What should we be expecting from this summit?
I think what we should expect is for the heads of states to say to us, accelerate implementation of the AFCFTA. We also expect that the heads of states will adopt the protocol on investment, the protocol on competition, and the protocol on intellectual property rights, which are being negotiated now as we speak. We expect that the heads of states will adopt other tools or instruments for implementation of the AFCFTA. For example, Africa Trade Gateway, which is a digital tool for connectivity for trade under the AFCFTA. So we expect that there will be a component, a very practical component of the Heads of State Summit, where they will be able to see what steps have been taken to enable trade in Africa. At the same time, they will also review the protocols that have been concluded for them to adopt.
So all along we have been talking about the implication of the youth to unlock the potential of the AFCFTA. Can you tell us about your vision for the youth, how youth-led initiatives can be supported effectively on the continent?
We are negotiating a protocol on women and trade, women and youth in trade, which is important because we want to move beyond aspirations. We want to move beyond saying that we are committed to making sure the AFCFTA benefits young people or that it benefits women who are small, medium enterprise owners. Those aspirations are good, but we want to do something concrete. So the protocol on women and youth in trade provides us with that legal platform to ensure that we have concrete outcomes and concrete benefits for young people. On the 13th and the 14th of this month of September, we will be in Tanzania under the patronage of President Hassan, the first of its kind AFCFTA Women and Youth in Trade Conference. And the idea is to explore, elaborate how the youth and women-led businesses can benefit from the AFCFTA. It's not for us as a secretariat to say this is what must be done to include women and youth in the implementation of the AFCFTA. We want these very important segments of our society to tell us what are their challenges, what are the barriers that they face when trying to trade across regions and across borders. So that's what the focus of that conference will be. And the outcomes will feed into the meeting of the Assembly of Heads of States and Government in Niamey. It will also feed into the drafting of the protocol so that the protocol is actually informed by what Africans want to see, what young Africans want to see in a trade agreement.
So how can Africa actually leverage on platforms such as the Africa-Caribbean Trade and Investment Forum to spur up its economic recovery?
I think that the Caribbean region offers us an additional market for us to diversify our export and import and not just rely on one region of the world. It is obviously the ties, the historical ties, the political ties are very, very strong. But as I said earlier, we need to transition to trade and investment. So for the continent, this forum and the Caribbean present an opportunity for export diversification. You would have heard in the morning there was a discussion about infrastructure investment in the Caribbean and vice versa, of course, exports of services from the Caribbean to the African continent. These are all very important pillars of a trade arrangement and a trade relationship between the two regions. It took us a very long time to get to this point, so we now have to accelerate the implementation of this engagement so that we increase trade flows from the 150 million per year, where it is very low at the moment, to much, much higher levels.
Thank you so much, Your Excellency, for honoring our invite.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching this interview. Stay tuned for more programs on Africa 24.